Hey, my name is Jesus Castillo from rubyguides.com, and in this video I'm working on a Ruby C extension. So from a C extension you can write C code, but you can interact with Ruby. So the reason I'm doing this is because I want to call this method. It's called RB debug counter show results. Yes, it's a long name. And this function is internal to Ruby, so it can be called from Ruby, but I want to call it from Ruby. So you can do that, and the way to do that is to call it from a Ruby extension. And the extension lets you do, like I said, you can call these internal methods and things like that. You probably should not, for like a production application, you don't want to be using internal methods that are not exposed for you to use explicitly. But since this is a research project that I'm working on to find out more of how Ruby works, then it's okay. You can do anything you want because this is not something that's going to go into like a production project or code, right? So right now this is the code I have, and it took me a while to actually get this to in a working state because I haven't done C extensions before. So that's a thing. And the key was this line because it couldn't find the actual function definition. So I tried a lot of different things. I thought I already tried this one, but apparently I haven't yet. So that's that. And then this the Ruby H, this where a lot of these functions are, but not this one specifically. And by the way, this is new in Ruby 2.5. Not many people know that it's new in Ruby 2.5. And what it allows you to do is to print debug counters. So let me show you what that looks like. So these are the debug counters. You see every line starts with Ruby debug counter. So to get this, you need a special version of Ruby 2.5, and you compile with a special flag, which is Ruby debug counter. And when you do that, then you get this output when your program ends. So if I do like ruby test.rb, which is just an empty file, well, even without file, see, no such file or directory, even without a file, when Ruby stop, it's done running, it will print this little report. And this is all of these internal performance counters that we can see. It can be very interesting to study those to see the behavior of Ruby, more specifically the implementation, because all of these implementation specific. So you might know that there are different implementations. There is MRI, which is the original, we could say the original implementation done by Mats, the creator of Ruby, and it's created in the C programming language. That's the original, and that's what we're studying here and researching. Then there is also others like JRuby, Rubinius. These are the main alternatives. And they might implement things differently. For example, I don't believe they implemented these debug counters. They might have some other debugging features. But more specifically, what I wanted to learn more about is about method caching, because Ruby has a method caching system. And if you're not familiar with the term of caching, with the feature, is for performance. So when you cache something, you are saving the work you have already done, so you don't have to repeat this work. It's like you are loading a web page. The first time it takes longer because it has to request all of the files, while the next time it will be faster. So it's the same idea here, the method cache. When you call a method, it has to do a lookup. So that means it has to find, Ruby has to find where that method is defined. So you have to go through different classes to find your method. But if the method is on the cache, then if we already know where the method is, exactly in what class the method is defined, right? So in that case, it will save some time of having to go through this method lookup process. But it's not documented exactly how the cache works. You can find a little bit of information right there or out there, and most of it is like from multiple years old, so it's not up to date. But this feature will allow us to investigate exactly how that works. So that's the background of what I'm doing right now. And if you're new to the channel, hello, welcome. My name is Jesus Castello, and I run this website rubyguides.com. Hi, rubyguides.com is my website if you like this. Okay, I will appreciate if you subscribe to the newsletter and to this channel. Now, what do we have here? Well, these the different counters. MC stands for method cache, ivar stands for instance variable, lvar stands for local variable, and these are just more specific for strings, some strings optimizations, and these are specific for arrays. These are array optimizations. So what I want to do with my extension is to get access to this data whenever I want. So right now I have this little parsing program. Let me show you Ruby, which I wrote yesterday in another live stream. And what this program does is this Ruby no extension. This separate from the C extension. So what this is doing is use the open free class from the standard library to actually capture the output of executing these scripts. So what I really want to capture is the counters, so I can see the difference. And that's what I'm doing. I'm using the zip method, which is a very interesting array method, enumerable method. I have another video of that. So I can compare the two counters. So that's the baseline. So that's an empty file, and that's another file that has something like puts 1 to 3 to see the changes between an empty script and some code to see what counters are changing, right? So the problem is if you have to look by hand and I tell you, hey, tell me what counter changed. Well, you have to go one by one. You have to go, hey, did this number change? No, it didn't. Did this number change? No, it didn't. You have to keep looking one by one. That can take a lot of time, right? So that's why I wrote this script yesterday, and it does that for me. It goes over each counter and it gives me the difference. So now if notice should make a little more sense, this is a list of only the counters unchanged. So of all of these counters that you see here, this only the counters that are changing between these two scripts. So between test one, which you can see is empty, should be there. Now this puts 1, 2, 3 test, and test 2 it has more. I think I thought it was empty, but I forgot I was doing some other test after this, so I put some stuff in there. But the point here is that they have different code, so they should have different counters, right? These counters will change if the code changes, because the code is doing different things. So like I said, this use a report I'm generating from the difference. So we can see, for example, there is one local variable get plus 1. There is one local variable set plus 1. Where are those coming from? Well, if we open test 2, we can see there is the local variable get, set, and that will be the get, I believe. That's where these two are coming from. We can see object free minus 1. Why? Well, because we're creating one object. That object is a string, ABC. So the list of free objects, which is like memory available for creating objects, there is minus 1 because we created one object. So that's also interesting. And we can see one miss on the cache, and when you have a cache, two things can happen. Okay, so a hit or a miss. So a hit means that the element was inside the cache and it was, we could say, fresh. So it's not stale, it's still it's still valid. It's still valid. Okay, so when there is a hit, then you get the value from the cache, and when there is a miss, it means that the value was not on the cache, and then see hit and miss. When there is a miss, the value was not on the cache, so it has to do the same as if there was no cache at all. So it has to do the whole process, all of the slow path, the slow computation, and then it can put that result into the cache. So that's what that is. So this tells us we call some method and it was not on the cache, and I believe that method is the size method. So what I want to do is to create like a test battery of scripts, so we can test what happens if you call the same method 3 times. What happens if you somehow redefine the method or change the method through metaprogramming or add methods to a class, those that alter any of these counters. That's what I want to know, and that's why I'm building some tools to help me work with this data. One of the tools is that script, the parser script. This is it again, and uses the open free from the Ruby standard library, which means it comes with Ruby, so you don't need to install any gems, you just need to require it. This for the formatting, and this the output, the actual report. So you have any questions about Ruby in general, about this thing, this project I'm working on, or anything, you can just type on the chat. And we will read in the chat from time to time and answering your questions. So what's next? Well, next is this C extension, which is partly working. So the part that's work is that it creates this debug module, and then it attaches or it creates the debug counters method, and what that method does is right here. Is it called this internal Ruby function that I want? What does this internal Ruby function do? Well, that's a function that prints all of that. So that's that. So let me show you what this is doing right now. This is how you compile it, make, and it creates this foobar SO file. And to use this, you can require it. So Ruby like that, and there we go. That's the output. And if we did something like IRB, then we require that file. You can see that it's foobar. There is our debug, and then I can do the debug.new. And it's a module, so we need to include debug, and then we can do what was the method name? Counters, debug counters. There, see? Now I can call this C internal function from Ruby. That's what the C extension is for. But you will notice a little problem. All of the counters are at 0. So I want to solve that. And I think not here, because this is coming from somewhere else. So there are two possibilities. One is that since I haven't touching changing the code, the original code from debug counters.c, is that I probably broke something here. And the other possibility is that when you have like an extension like this, it runs like in its own little world. We could say it has its own values. So these values are different than the values from the current Ruby interpreter. So the possibility that's easier to work with, to investigate, is the first one that I mentioned, which is the changes in this file. So what I'm going to do is to, let's see, include debug counter h. This looks mostly right. I'm looking at the original file, which you can find here. I will link it for you. That's the original file. Okay. And it looks mostly the same. The only thing I remove is this part where it says attribute destructor. Everything else is about the same. So that was one line that was here, but it has nothing to do with this working or not, as far as I understand. So see, this is what prints the report from the Ruby interpreter side. So let's look at the other file, because oops, there are two files. There is also debug counter h. I think I also changed this, so let me look at that. So that file is this. Let me also link it for you. And let's see. Ah, yes, this one thing I might have changed it. Let me just do the following. Let me delete the file. Okay, then I'm going to request it clean file, like that, and then also the C version. But I'm going to remove this because that line makes it so when this is ending, it will always run, and I don't want that for my program. So now if I come here, I delete my extension file. Okay, linking shared, so it's working apparently. Shall be able to, let's see what we have. Okay, think that's working, isn't it? Let's try that. IRB, include debug, then what was it again? Yes, debug counters. Nope, still 0. Huh. No, that's interesting. Well, at least when I did this, it's working. So that's a thing. So let me see something. Let me see if I do. Oh. By requiring this, it should not run the code just for requiring it. Solid? Why will it do that? What I mean is that it should not print this at all. Why is it printing this? Good question. Let's think about this. Define method. I don't think this is it. Define method. Let me try this. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I think this line is what is making it run for some reason. So I need to move that, think that might be it. So let's make, okay. Huh. Oh, I think it's just in, hold on. Debug counter, let's see. No, it's empty. H, O. Okay. Let's make sure, make, play, make. Okay. No, why will this function run? If you know, let me know. Debug counter, see. There is nothing that actually calls the function from what I can see. But let me try something. Why not? So include debug debug counters. Okay, let's do puts just puts. That's interesting. So it's printing twice, as we can see. One of the times it's zeros, which is probably the one I'm printing. Debug counters. Yes. So when my version is running, it doesn't seem to have access to the actual data for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not that much into C programming. I know the basics, but there are a lot of details behind the scenes, just like Ruby. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it. I don't think so. No, because it will not print at all. I'm talking about that if statement. So it probably has to do with, let's see, why are the counters empty? Good question. Good question. See, these are 0, 0, 0, 0, and these are not. These are the ones I'm printing from an extension. So I guess I have to go with my theory that when you run extension, it runs in like its own process, its own little wall, and it doesn't touch your actual Ruby memory. So the next thing I was thinking to do, oh, not this, is to actually add this code instead of an extension inside Ruby itself, inside the Ruby interpreter. That way we are sure it will be available. So let's do that. Init, and we can do that somewhere here where other methods are being defined. So how about something like that? And then So the whole point is to give me access to the counters whenever I want. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, so we need these lines. Copy, paste. Okay, and we will need this method. Boop, 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 bam. And there we go. That sort of thing. Now if I save this, we should be able to do like make client. And maybe configure, and then we can compile our custom version of Ruby. So it's going. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to chat. Okay, so that's done. Now it's compiling. Oh, I guess we have to import. We have to do this require, not require include debug counters. Let's see. No such file or directory. It's debug counter. Okay, so what's the problem now? Well, we probably want to move that all of this like to the bottom. Apps now. This where I should be using 8 atom instead, because it's getting. Okay, so let's go. All the way to the bottom of this. I think npm objects. Maybe in some other file that runs after this. Let's see, will this be good enough? Not yet. How about this? Let's do this. No. Let's take all of that. Okay, set the number and just delete all of that. And then let's open what do we want? Debug counters.c, and on the top of that we're going to drop that, and think that might do it. initialize element is not constant. What do you mean? Hmm. Hmm. Initialize element is not constant. No idea what that means. How do I do this? Because initialize element is not constant. No idea. Let me Google, see if we come up with anything useful. Not very useful. What I can find is not very useful. What if I put this like static void define debug counter debug method and see if it likes that or what. We like that. Let's find out. Okay, it seems to like that. So now should be able to call that method, that function. Why is that a thing? But what do you mean previous definition was here? How do I call this then? Oh, I think I know how. Hold on. We need this thing. That might be it. Okay, I guess not. Hmm. Well, at some point you have to call this so you can actually define the things. I wonder if I can just do this in the extension. Maybe that works. Let's try that. Let's try that. Maybe that works. So have this inside the Ruby code itself, inside the Ruby interpreter code, and then just have this other thing here. See if that does it. Okay, so that's done. So this will be able to do sudo make install. Okay, so that's that. Okay. Now, what about this? Okay, so it's still 0, but we didn't recompile. Warning, define but not use. Fine. Fine. What is define but not use? Define counter debug method. Oh, this one. Okay, that's fine. The one I care about is this one. Okay. So we are done. And now let's see what happens. Still 0. Why? Huh. I don't know. Now it's using the method inside Ruby itself, the Ruby interpreter, this method. So you will think it's going to work. Does this have anything to do with it? I don't think so. Why would this have anything to do with it if the printing is happening here? Hmm. Uh, let's see. I guess we will need to do something else. Let's take a look at like is there need something? Need the dir. How about debug c debug? How about I'm just looking right now. I'm looking for a pattern. I want to make sure this pattern is following of the init like this init. Yes, seems to be a good pattern for these files. So I wonder if I can make a new file like let's see foo.c, and let's just do void init foo. So basically we're copying our extension code in here. That's what's happening. Like this one. But we won't need that because we are inside the Ruby interpreter. So we just need this. Let's do that. How about this? With that compile, let's do a make. See what happens. Okay, seems like that worked. Full. This our file. Yes, seems to have worked apparently. Let's see if we do make install. So I'm recompiling the Ruby source code to see if now we have Ruby.hb IRB. We should have a debug. No, we don't have a debug. Wherefore, is there some file where the list of files is like make file or something? Yeah, this kind of research projects take some time. but it's interesting to be digging into internals of Ruby, see how things work. So let's see. If I use B in Ruby, we have a debug. We don't. If I use Ruby C debug, there is no debug. So my file is not being used apparently. They need something specific. Internal.h. I'm thinking, what does it take for Ruby to compile this and make it part of Ruby? Let me try something. Void B C D E F G. Just to see if it shows up as a thing when I compile Ruby. See, it says parts and sources for but I think that's mostly for the documentation. But let's see what we have. Let's I don't see our function. I think this one is in the other one with print something print counters. Pretty sure that's our function. The one inside debug counters. So we debug counters, let's see. Yeah, print counters, that's our function right there. So this making it. And I guess this one to define counter method. Let's see, define. Yep, there it is. But not that this other one that we create here. This one. That one is definitely not there, as far as I can tell. Yep. So how does it decide what files to use? Clearly that's coming from somewhere. oh, think we may be able to find out by looking at the commit for Ruby 2.5 when this was added, this new file. What did it change? Let's go to this. So let me look at this. The book counter. I'm looking at another screen. Sorry, you can see it. Oh, it's in this common.mk. So common mk. There we go. Object extension stands for hold on. Where is that defined? I debug on there it is. Array object extension. Okay. Next. Where else? Object counter, debug counter. I don't think they add that many things to this. So this is what I'm looking at. Let me share this link with you. History. Looking at this common.mk file, common.mk file. That's what I'm looking at. So what I'm trying to see is what it takes to add a new file to Ruby itself interpreter. Let me do something else. No, hold on. Debug a counter. Okay. Why is there only one? Hold on. One change. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm looking for changes. Okay, so this is the actual introduction of this feature, the debug counters. And it seems that this common thing is pretty important in terms of what files to use. I believe we can just throw it in here in this list. So you see this? This what was added. So if I add this to the bottom, let's do not that foo, then this thingy. I believe that might do it. Oh, okay. Yes, it did work. Function init foo unknown type name value. Well, I'll put C. I guess we need to include rubyh. Print context in the class, of course. Now we can move this copy and delete okay, and move this into our full thing. On declare, of course, has to be, wants to have the order and all of that. Let's try this. Implicit declaration, of course. Debug check results because include Ruby debug. And I think we can just do, let me see, hold on. Debug counter h, debug counter h. At least that's what it's using internally, or not. Hey, seems to be doing something. Well, let's see. Then we have a debug thing. No, we don't. I don't know why, but we don't. Unless we know this code is in there, so we can see the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I just don't know why this is not running. This init foo should be running. At least that's my understanding. What if It seems like it doesn't like code like this, but I can try. Yep. It's like it doesn't like code without unit for doesn't like code without functions. So now what does it make it call this init? That is triggered init. There was another method called init VM. Wonder if that does something. Nope, not debug. Well, I'm not sure. I will have to look more into it. But I think that's all I have for now. Thanks a lot for watching.